After all the S-rank hunters were beaten badly by the Ant King, Jinwoo decided to arrive at the battle scene, and now the most legendary battle is about to take place. The Ant King has arrived. He tells that the true king had not been outside. Goto had never been the real threat. The realization dawns upon Yunho, who struggles to process the implications. If this creature is the real Ant King, then it can only mean one thing: Goto had lost. The weight of that thought alone is enough to send a wave of unease through him. Dongwook clenches his fists in frustration, but before he can voice his thoughts, Jinwoo makes his decision clear. Miss Cha must be taken to safety. Ignoring any attempts to stop him, Jinwoo steps forward, his mind piecing together the events that led to this moment. The reason he could no longer detect Goto's shadow was now painfully obvious. It had been erased by the monster standing before him. The Ant King radiates a menacing aura, its towering frame exuding an overwhelming sense of power. As it approaches, its voice reverberates across the battlefield. Unlike the mindless creatures before it, this one is different. This one speaks. It acknowledges Jinwoo's presence, its words laced with curiosity and challenge. The question hangs in the air, carrying the weight of something far greater than mere observation. The Ant King wants to know, is he the king of the humans? Jinwoo narrows his eyes, taking in the sight of the monstrosity standing before him, a talking insect, a powerful foe. The two stand face to face, the battlefield falling silent around them as the tension between them reaches its peak. Jinwoo stands firm as the Ant King acknowledges the overwhelming pressure radiating from him. The creature lets out a thunderous roar, but it has no effect on Jinwoo. A smirk forms on his lips as he mocks the Ant King, stating that it is finally behaving like a real insect. 5 minutes earlier, at the coast of the city, Jo-hee stares at her phone screen in disbelief as the broadcast suddenly cuts off. Song, noticing her reaction, asks about the fate of the hunters, while she herself struggles to comprehend what kind of monster that ant truly was. Jong-soo, visibly frustrated, clenches his fists and curses the abrupt end of the broadcast. Yoon-tae, confused by the situation, questions what exactly is going on. Meanwhile, on a news channel, a grim confirmation shakes the viewers. Byung-gu has been declared dead. Min-sung, shocked by the report, feels a wave of disbelief wash over him. The reporter continues, stating that the other hunters remain trapped within the tunnels, and their survival is uncertain. The uncertainty looms heavily until another shocking update arrives. A new hunter has joined the raid. The newsroom, now in a frenzy, rushes to restart the live broadcast. In another part of the city, Hee-jin and her friends watch the broadcast, their eyes wide with shock. None of them can believe what they are seeing. At the same time, Sugimoto delivers his report with a grave expression. He recounts Goto's last words. The ant has quite a threatening presence. When the Ant King had asked Goto if he was the king, Goto had affirmed it, and those had been his final words before his demise. Matsumoto grits his teeth, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. An ant capable of speaking the human language, and on top of that, one powerful enough to kill Goto. The implications are terrifying. Sugimoto awaits further orders, but Matsumoto, suppressing his rage, demands to know the Ant King's current location. Sugimoto informs him that it has returned to the Queen's chamber. Matsumoto, his anger boiling over, then asks if the Korean hunters are still alive. Sugimoto nods, revealing that not only are they alive, but they are also detecting additional mana signals, strong ones emanating from another entity. Frustration clouds Matsumoto's face as he swiftly orders them to turn on the television. He needs to see the live broadcast immediately. Back at Jinwoo's home, Gina enters the living room, puzzled, and asks her mother what she is doing. Her mother apologizes, explaining that the television suddenly stopped working. Gina then asks where Jinwoo is, to which her mother replies that he left in a hurry, assuring her that he wouldn't be gone for long. Still curious about the malfunctioning TV, Gina questions her mother again, but before waiting for a response, she heads off to investigate. Watching her daughter disappear behind the door, their mother sighs, commenting to herself that both siblings seem unusually restless today. Inside her room, Gina's eyes widen in sheer disbelief at what she is witnessing on the screen. At the Hunter Association headquarters, Gun-hee clenches his fist tightly upon recognizing Jinwoo on the battlefield. The tension in the room is palpable. A subordinate, noticing Gun-hee's reaction, urges him to remain calm, but Gun-hee knows. The situation unfolding before them is far beyond ordinary. Jinwoo now stands face to face with the Ant King. The colossal beast moves first, attempting to slam Jinwoo into the ground. However, Jinwoo does not falter. He holds his ground effortlessly. The sheer force of their clash shatters the ground beneath them, creating a massive explosion. The resulting shockwave sends debris flying in every direction. As the dust settles, Jong-in, watching the battle unfold, comments stating that mages should never get too close to their enemies. Yoon-ho, on the other hand, speculates that Jinwoo may have underestimated the Ant King and taken a direct hit to the face. But as the dust clears, a collective gasp of shock erupts from the observers. The Ant King, standing over, scoffs, calling Jinwoo weak and dismissing him as unworthy of being a king. Yet before it can finish its taunt, everyone witnesses something unbelievable. Jinwoo, standing firm, completely unscathed. He spits out a small amount of blood, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he activates Commander's touch. A dark aura envelops his hand as he prepares to retaliate. The Ant King, sensing the overwhelming power radiating from him, suddenly feels an unnatural pressure crushing down on its body. Its knees buckle involuntarily under the weight of Jinwoo's aura. Before it can even comprehend what is happening, Jinwoo moves. In a blur of motion, Jinwoo delivers a devastating punch. The force behind it is monstrous, sending the Ant King hurtling through the air. It crashes into the wall with an earth-shaking impact, debris scattering in all directions. The sheer force of the strike leaves the onlookers stunned. Tae-gyu and the cameraman, both witnessing the clash up close, are left speechless. Dong-wook, struggling to believe what he is seeing, turns to Yoon-ho and Jong-in, his voice shaking with disbelief. He asks if they still believe Jinwoo is a mage-type hunter. Yoon-ho, though still in shock, responds honestly. He always knew Jinwoo was strong, but never in his wildest dreams did he imagine he was this strong. Recovering from the blow, the Ant King lets out another deafening roar. Jinwoo, unfazed, observes its body with an amused smirk. He notes that its durability must be due to its exoskeleton, though he finds it rather annoying. Without missing a beat, he readies himself once again. The Ant King, now enraged, launches a full-powered assault. However, Jinwoo meets its attack effortlessly, blocking it with a single hand. The two engage in a brutal exchange, their blows shaking the very ground beneath them. Jinwoo lands a vicious punch to the Ant King's stomach, causing it to stagger. In retaliation, the Ant King strikes back with all its might. The battle intensifies, neither side relenting as they clash in a ferocious display of raw power. The cameraman, despite being an A-rank hunter himself, finds it nearly impossible to stand properly in the face of the sheer intensity of the mana waves erupting from their battle. His body trembles as he grabs his camera tightly, barely holding on to his consciousness. Meanwhile, doubt creeps into the Ant King's mind. It begins to question itself. Is it truly losing a battle of strength? As the relentless barrage continues, its once impenetrable exoskeleton starts to crack under the force of Jinwoo's attacks. The Ant King stares at him, its monstrous mind racing with a single thought. What is this man? They glare at each other, their fists colliding with immense force before they step back to regain their balance. The Ant King reels in shock. Jinwoo has broken through its exoskeleton. It finds the situation impossible to believe, yet before it can fully process what has happened, Jinwoo dashes forward at a speed that leaves it stunned. Without hesitation, he delivers a devastating punch, sending the Ant King soaring into the air. In response, the Ant King finally reveals its spear-like tongue and strikes with precision. The attack lands, forcing Jinwoo to stagger back before falling to one knee. A sudden realization washes over him as he senses something unfamiliar coursing through his body. The poison is spreading. After consuming the cone snail, the Ant King had acquired the ability to use poison paralysis, one of the most lethal substances created by nature. Now, combined with the mana concentrated within its body, the poison has become even deadlier. Observing Jinwoo's weakened state, the Ant King declares his struggle meaningless. It had fought well, but this is where its life must end. Without hesitation, it lunges to finish the battle. Jinwoo, however, remains motionless. Meanwhile, in Jeju City, the rain continues to fall steadily. Kanai watches Minoru closely, noting the tremble in his stance. She informs him that she received a call from Sugimoto and demands an explanation. Minoru, his voice laced with fear, mutters that they cannot win. The creature they face is beyond anything they have encountered. S ranks mean nothing against it. Humanity itself would be powerless. Even Goto failed to stop it, and so will they. Kanai grits her teeth, her frustration mounting as she questions whether he has lost his resolve. Minoru, unable to shake his terror, continues to repeat that it cannot be stopped. Disgusted, Kanai shoves him back, her voice laced with irritation as she calls him pathetic. Before she can say more, her gaze shifts to a helicopter hovering above. Her expression darkens as she realizes the true problem is only beginning. She curses under her breath. Back in the collapsing cavern, Jinwoo suddenly tightens his grip around the Ant King's arm. A sharp, cracking sound echoes through the battlefield, sending a shockwave of realization through the Ant King's mind. Without allowing it time to react, Jinwoo delivers a powerful punch, launching it across the cavern with crushing force. The Ant King crashes violently into the wall, letting out a piercing screech as fractures spread across its exoskeleton. Jinwoo swiftly detoxifies himself, regaining full control over his body. An unusual sensation overtakes him as he realizes he can feel the Ant King's emotions. The creature had felt satisfaction when its poison began spreading, but now, all traces of confidence have been replaced by anxiety. However, Jinwoo knows he is not the only one noticing the shift in tension. His teammates are growing restless as well. Miss Cha remains unconscious, her condition worsening with each passing moment. He recognizes the urgency of the situation. The fight must end quickly. Without hesitation, he leaps into the air. Below, the Ant King, still struggling to recover from the force of Jinwoo's last attack, looks up in shock. Before it can react, Jinwoo's foot connects with devastating power. A massive explosion erupts upon impact, shaking the entire cavern and sending tremors through the ground. The walls begin to collapse under the sheer force of the battle. Yunho watches in horror, desperately scanning the battlefield to locate the Ant King. Jong-in stands frozen in confusion, unable to process the unfolding chaos. Jinwoo, however, remains composed as he watches the Ant King being sent flying. The realization dawns upon the creature: it cannot rely on poison. Wearing Jinwoo down through attrition is an impossible strategy. With this understanding, the Ant King makes a choice. Its exoskeleton begins to shrink as it redirects all remaining energy into its speed. If strength is Jinwoo's greatest asset, then there is no advantage in facing him head-on. True victory lies in agility. With a piercing gaze, the Ant King silently acknowledges that the battle has now entered its final phase. Jinwoo draws his daggers, his body poised for combat. Their eyes meet once more, signaling the beginning of yet another clash. The Ant King moves first, striking with blinding speed, but Jinwoo anticipates its attack and evades effortlessly. The Ant King, stunned by his reflexes, barely registers Jinwoo's counterattack before it is forced to defend itself. A relentless barrage of slashes follows, each attack sharper and faster than the last. The Ant King moves on instinct, blocking each strike with inhuman reaction speed. Jinwoo briefly withdraws, only to surge forward once more, pressing the attack. They collide in a violent exchange, neither willing to yield. As the battle rages on, the Ant King's astonishment grows. Jinwoo is not merely keeping up with its speed, he is surpassing it. The thought seems inconceivable, yet the reality is undeniable. Jinwoo assesses his opponent with an unshaken resolve. The Ant King is as powerful as the demon monarch Baran, perhaps even stronger. However, since defeating Baran, Jinwoo has undergone significant growth. His weapons have evolved, his strength has multiplied, and most importantly, the Ant King's once impenetrable exoskeleton is now barely holding together. The end is inevitable. Sensing its impending defeat, the Ant King fights more aggressively, but its body continues to deteriorate under the relentless assault. Jinwoo recognizes the opportunity and wastes no time. Activating his critical skill, he unleashes a devastating flurry of attacks, each strike landing with lethal precision. His critical rate reaches its peak, even surpassing his expectations. Desperation takes hold of the Ant King as it attempts to flee. Jinwoo, unmoved by its efforts, refuses to let it escape. Without hesitation, he activates Mutilate, cutting through the Ant King multiple times in rapid succession. Impressed by the technique's effectiveness, he activates it once more, striking with overwhelming force. The final slash tears through the Ant King's body completely. The creature roars in agony, its form collapsing under its own weight. For the first time, a genuine sense of despair seeps into its thoughts. It questions whether there is truly no escape, no advantage left to exploit. Then, realization strikes. The flicker of a final strategy presents itself. With a last, thunderous roar, the Ant King summons its army. A horde of monstrous ants emerges from the darkness, filling the battlefield in an endless wave. The march begins, countless enemies surging forward with unwavering determination. Confidence returns to the Ant King. It is won, but Jinwoo only grins. Without hesitation, he calls forth his own army. The air trembles as the shadows rise, materializing one by one. The battlefield erupts into chaos as the armies collide. The fierce fight begins between the army of ants and the shadow army of Jinwoo. At this point, the situation appears to have reversed, as the ants, once bold in their assault, now seem to be cornered. Igris initiates the attack by releasing a sword slash, decapitating one of the ants. Meanwhile, one of the orc guards slices an ant's body in half, while the mother orc guard delivers a powerful punch that hits the mother ant's body. Following this, Jinwoo commands, "Come forth," and a shadow emerges from behind him, Tusk. Before Tusk attacks, Jinwoo warns him to only target the ants, and if any humans are harmed, Tusk will not be summoned again. Tusk nods in agreement, signaling that he will follow the orders. He then activates the Hymn of Giants, and an energy fireball begins to form in his mouth. He directs it at the ants in front of him, and in an instant, a giant blast of fire engulfs numerous ants. The power of the skill is so intense that it even pierces through the tunnel, resembling a laser beam. Taegyu and Dongwook are astonished by the events unfolding before them. Taegyu wonders if what they are seeing is a summoned beast, and if Jinwoo truly summoned it. Dongwook replies to his statement that it does not look like a beast, but more like a devil descending upon the land, watching as the ants burn under Tusk's fire. The ants, watching the others being consumed by the fire, struggle to comprehend the situation. In its mind, it has always been the strongest ever since its birth. Flashbacks of its past, slaying powerful foes like Kei, Ryuji, and Byung-gu, flood its thoughts. It had devoured anyone who dared to stand in its way, and had claimed its place at the top of the food chain. In its mind, there was no limit to how powerful it could become. It believed itself to be the king. But now, as it watches Jinwoo emerge from the fire, it continuously questions why. As Jinwoo approaches, his eyes glowing with an intense aura, the ant realizes it must flee to survive. A green aura surrounds the ant, and Jinwoo, recognizing the use of Byung-gu's healing ability, realizes he is facing a beast with the ability to absorb the skills of its opponents through devouring them. In the following moments, the ant retreats, its only thought being to escape far. Jinwoo activates his commander's touch, and a massive aura in the shape of a hand materializes above the ant. With a swift motion, Jinwoo slams the hand down, crushing the ant to the ground. The impact is so powerful that the ant is smashed. The ant, startled by the sudden attack, tries to crawl away using its claws, attempting to escape from Jinwoo. Jinwoo, however, declares that he will not let it escape. With a leap, Jinwoo lands above the ant, which is desperately trying to flee. Jinwoo activates the mutilate skill, raining a flurry of slashes down on the ant. A notification appears on his system. The enemy has been defeated. Jinwoo levels up twice while gazing at the defeated ant. Just then, Yoon-ho calls out to Jinwoo, informing him that Miss Cha's condition is worsening. Jinwoo looks at Miss Cha, realizing that too much time has passed since the fight began. He knows he needs to find a healer. However, he cannot use his shadow exchange skill yet, as it is in its cooldown, and he has never teleported with another person before. His best option, Jinwoo thinks, is to fly out using Kaizul, but even then, he fears that Miss Cha might die during the flight. He wonders if there's a healer still alive in the Blade Guild. Jinwoo mutters to himself, there has to be a way, as he watches Miss Cha's fading condition. Suddenly, a thought strikes him. He turns to the cameraman and orders him to turn off the camera for a moment. The cameraman, confused, asks, "Pardon?" But Jinwoo repeats his order, threatening he will smash the camera into pieces if he doesn't comply. The cameraman, now nervous, agrees and turns off the camera. Jinwoo then instructs all his shadows to find Byung-gu's body. Yoon-ho, startled, asks, "Is he going to?" An orc guard soon finds Byung-gu's body and carries it back. Upon seeing the body, Jinwoo realizes that the ant had chewed through it. He wonders if what he is about to do will work. Yoon-hai, confused, asks Jinwoo about his plan. At that moment, a notification pops up on Jinwoo's system. Shadow extraction can be used on Byung-gu's body. Jinwoo sighs in relief, realizing that this is the only way. Jinwoo speaks the word, arise, and black shadows envelop Byung-goo's body. However, a message pops up on his system. Shadow extraction failed. Jinwoo, in disbelief, mutters, "No way." He tries again, speaking the word, arise, but once again the system informs him that the extraction has failed. Jinwoo contemplates that his current skill should be sufficient for such a simple thing. He theorizes that the reason it isn't working is because Byung-goo strongly opposes becoming a shadow soldier. Jinwoo believes that Byung-goo may think it immoral to turn a human into one. Iron, who stands nearby, watches the situation unfold in confusion. Jinwoo, however, is focused on saving the one life still remaining. His eyes turn to Miss Cha. On his final attempt, Jinwoo once again says, arise. This time the shadows envelop Byung-goo's body successfully. Yoon-ho grabs Jinwoo's shoulder in shock and asks, what did he do to Byung-goo? His voice filled with disbelief, asking further, does he have the power to command the dead? At last, Jinwoo's third attempt is successful. Byung-goo's hand emerges from the ground as the shadows solidify around him. Byung-goo, now a shadow, standing tall beside Jinwoo. Yoon-ho stands in disbelief, questioning whether Jinwoo possesses the power to command the dead. Jong-in inquires if he can harness the abilities of the deceased, while Dong-wook remarks that he is no ordinary summoner. Byung-goo approaches Hai-in and activates his skill, beginning to heal her. Yoon-ho, watching the scene unfold, asks if he is truly healing her. Jinwoo observes Byung-goo and states that he can discern the kind of person he was. Despite having received no orders, Byung-goo instinctively started healing Hai-in, demonstrating a warm heart. Yoon-ho grits his teeth and asserts that the entity before them is no longer Byung-goo, to which Jinwoo agrees. Meanwhile, the cameraman, overwhelmed by shock, finally understands why Jinwoo had instructed him to turn off the camera. He now realizes the terrifying truth that Jinwoo can summon the dead. Jong-in reflects on the battle, noting that as the conflict escalates, Jinwoo only grows stronger, becoming truly formidable. Yoon-ho, turning to Jinwoo, acknowledges that he will inevitably partake in future battles and admits that Byung-goo's healing abilities would be invaluable. However, he reveals that Byung-goo despised violence and pleads with Jinwoo not to make him fight again. Jinwoo remains silent for a moment before brushing Yoon-ho's hand off his shoulder. He reminds Yoon-ho that this is the second time he has placed his hand on his shoulder, but there is one difference. This time, it is not an order, but a heartfelt request. After a brief pause, Jinwoo expresses his agreement with Yoon-ho's words and proceeds to terminate Byung-goo's extraction. As Byung-goo's form begins to dissipate, he smiles, and Yoon-ho does the same before expressing his gratitude. Outside, a helicopter arrives, and a soldier informs them that the hunters have arrived. Yoon-ho, expecting Jinwoo to join them, is confused when Jinwoo declares that he will remain behind. Jinwoo explains that he has unfinished business to take care of, which Yoon-ho understands, recognizing that the raid is far from over. Jinwoo assures them that he will eliminate the remaining ants. Summoning Kaisel, he ascends into the sky and disappears into the distance. Meanwhile, aboard the Japanese hunter's ship, Minoru, still paralyzed with fear, frantically recounts the sheer strength of the monstrous ant, emphasizing that they could never defeat such a being. He insists that they failed to grasp the magnitude of the threat, since they did not witness how it effortlessly slaughtered Goto. Despairing, he declares that the raid has failed, and that no hunter in existence could possibly slay the beast. Sugimoto, attempting to reassure him, tells him to calm down, revealing that the raid has already concluded and the beast has been defeated. Minoru, struggling to believe it, listens as Sugimoto explains that they received confirmation from the Korean headquarters. Though skeptical, he understands that such an announcement must be true. Sugimoto recalls his earlier conversation with Goto, where the latter had mentioned Jinwoo. At that moment, a soldier informs him that the ants are dispersing, and he is shocked to learn that some still remain. Without hesitation, he orders the ships to prepare for battle. Elsewhere, a large-scale battle rages between the Shadow Army and the remaining ants. Jinwoo, amid the chaos, notes that he is gaining experience even for eliminating unhatched ants, considering it an added bonus. Opening his inventory, he realizes that he needs to reorganize his items. As he rummages through, he suddenly notices something. His gaze falls upon a massive sword. He had completely forgotten about it. Taking the sword out, he contemplates wielding it. Swinging it experimentally, he is stunned by its overwhelming power. Deciding that it would be a waste to keep it stored away, he considers using it to exterminate the remaining ant eggs. Meanwhile, in a luxurious mansion, Connor stands before David, the head of the Hunters Bureau, inquires about his thoughts. David, having just finished watching the footage, remarks that he lost track of time. It is already 4 in the morning. He states that he already knows his answer and acknowledges that Connor came to his house at such an hour for precisely this reason. Connor continues, marveling at the fact that Jinwoo is a hunter capable of summoning and commanding 100 beasts. He asserts that such talent would be wasted in Korea, a country too small for him. David agrees but asks if Connor has obtained any additional information about him. Handing him a file, Connor reveals its contents. Details regarding an explosion at the Bureau several months prior, an incident known as the Sung Il-hwan case. According to the file, Sung Il-hwan had been captured alive within an A-rank dungeon off the East Coast by another A-rank hunter. Initially, they were uncertain whether he was a beast or a human, but he claimed to be a hunter from South Korea. The Bureau had gathered extensive data on him, and all relevant information remained documented in the file. More importantly, it is revealed that Sung Il-hwan is none other than Jinwoo's father. Recognizing the significance of this revelation, Connor asserts that they now have an opportunity. No other country is aware of this information. However, he admits that they cannot handle this situation the same way they did with Dong-soo. David, his expression turning cold, reminds Connor that South Korea has been a long-standing ally of the United States. Taking another S-rank hunter from them would be a direct affront to their alliance. Connor, unwavering, insists that Jinwoo is worth the risk. David narrows his eyes and demands to know if he truly believes he can accomplish this. Connor, undeterred, confidently replies that he will give it his utmost effort. Back on the battlefield, Jinwoo levels up once again, finally reaching level 100. Letting out a sigh of relief, he acknowledges that this particular battle was unusually troublesome. With his mind now free to focus, he retrieves the Ant King's corpse and attempts a shadow extraction. Suddenly, an immense pressure envelops him. The world around him plunges into darkness. Perplexed, he wonders what is happening. Was this reaction triggered by his attempt to extract its shadow, or had he failed? Just as he begins to question the outcome, the oppressive darkness lifts, and he finds himself staring at the new shadow. Towering before him, it radiates an overwhelming presence. Jinwoo had believed the extraction had failed, but the creature standing before him is proof to the contrary. The Ant King's shadow has successfully manifested more than that. It is of general rank. The Ant King's shadow stands before Jinwoo, unlike anything he has encountered before. Up until now, the highest ranks he had seen among his shadows were Standard, Elite, Knight, and Elite Knight. But this one surpasses them all. If his assumption is correct, then this shadow is far stronger than any he has extracted so far, which is unsurprising given how powerful the Ant King had been in life. Shifting his attention to the Queen's corpse, he prepares to extract her shadow, but before he can proceed, the Ant King kneels before him, addressing him as king and requesting a name. Jinwoo considers whether the absolute loyalty that binds all his soldiers extends to this one as well. A question lingers in his mind. How is this shadow capable of speech? The Ant King replies that he has always possessed the ability. Confused, Jinwoo wonders if he means that he could speak even before becoming a shadow. He recalls that Iron had once been human, yet after becoming a shadow, he had been unable to speak. The same was true for Byung-gu and Tusk. The only clear distinction between them and the Ant King is their rank, which raises another question. Will others also gain the ability to speak once they ascend to a higher rank? Testing the Ant King's devotion, Jinwoo reveals that he was the one who killed him and asks if he still wishes to follow him. The Ant King, however, does not perceive it that way. He insists that he was not killed by Jinwoo, but rather reborn through his power. Overwhelmed by joy, he pledges eternal allegiance, kneeling once more in complete devotion. Again, he requests a name. Jinwoo briefly contemplates what to call him. Naming him something simple like Ant or Bug would be odd. He should have a name that sets him apart. At that moment, he remembers the name of the author who wrote The Ants. Without hesitation, he speaks the name Beru. Beru expresses his gratitude with evident joy, but Jinwoo quickly turns back to the Queen's corpse and extracts her shadow. The process is successful, yet something unexpected occurs. All the ants in the area begin to behave differently. Puzzled, Jinwoo realizes that his bond with them has weakened. Seeking an explanation, he looks to Beru. Beru clarifies that the queen possesses an inherent ability to rule her colony, which remains intact even in death. As long as she exists, she retains the right to command the ants. When Jinwoo asks for confirmation, Beru affirms his statement. Noticing that the queen's mana is surprisingly low for someone of her rank, Jinwoo demands an explanation. Beru explains that her mana was primarily used for reproduction, and now that she no longer has a physical body, that function has ceased, leaving her with significantly depleted reserves. With this revelation, Jinwoo considers her worth as a combatant. If she is incapable of battle, then there is no reason to keep her. He remains silent for a moment before making his decision. Without hesitation, he terminates her shadow. Turning his attention to his soldiers, he orders them to stop collecting the essence stones, stating that all of them will be used for the reconstruction of Jeju Island. Without question, they obey, dropping the stones immediately. He instructs them not to keep even a single one for themselves. Gazing at the stone recovered from Beru's corpse, he concludes that it will be more than sufficient for his own needs. With that matter settled, he shifts his focus to the remaining ants. The pressing question is whether his current troops are sufficient to eliminate them all. Determined, he declares that they will fight with everything they have. Beru steps forward, analyzing the battlefield. He observes that the enemy forces are struggling to navigate in the absence of a leader. Without proper coordination, they are incapable of maintaining formation and are scattering in disarray. When Jinwoo asks how many ants remain, Beru responds without hesitation. Before the attack, there had been approximately 8,700 ants. Now, about 4,000 remain. Jinwoo exhales sharply. He had assumed that the earlier battle had thinned their numbers more significantly, but it seems there are still many left to eliminate. Considering his options, he questions whether Beru can handle the remainder on his own. Without hesitation, Beru states that he will carry out the task if given the order. Meanwhile, aboard the ship, Jong-soo warns the crew that the ants are approaching. Immediately, the ships respond, launching a barrage of missiles while mages unleash their magic. The sky erupts with explosions, casting an eerie glow over the stormy battlefield. Gina reports that the ants are changing course, heading north toward the Knights Guild. Ki-hoon quickly rallies the Hunters Guild, instructing them to prepare for battle. The confrontation is inevitable. At the same time, the Vice Guild leader of the Fame Guild commands her subordinates to ready themselves. A member of the Fiend Guild berates his comrades, reminding them of the sheer strength of a single ant. If they wish to reclaim the Fiend Guild's former glory, they must stand their ground and fight. However, fear takes hold of some. Min Sung, trembling, questions how they are supposed to fight such creatures. Another guild member sneers, remarking that despite being an A-rank hunter, Min Sung is nothing more than a coward. The rain continues to pour relentlessly as the ants emerge in the distance. Jo-hee watches their rapid approach with growing unease, questioning whether they truly have the strength to withstand the attack. The ants move with terrifying speed. Within moments, they are already within arm's reach. Suddenly, Chi-yul's eyes widen in shock as he witnesses an ant being slashed apart in an instant. Jo-hee stands frozen, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. She murmurs in disbelief, unable to process the scene before her. Chi-yul, still reeling, mutters that whatever struck down the ant was impossibly fast, so fast that he hadn't even seen it move. Only then does the truth become clear. The figure standing amidst the carnage is none other than Beru.